Please ask him to repeat the last time. Yeah, I lost him just towards the end. All the sound suddenly disappeared. So hopefully we get going again. Aha, here we go. Are we back? That's I got to the point of the lower body produces the speed and then you disappeared.
Yeah, so I turned off the Wi-Fi and then now I'm relying on my data.
Okay.
So I don't know whether it's my problem or your problem, but okay. So when you use the arms a lot, then essentially you are generating the speed using your arms, and also you have to do the direction control, right?
Yeah.
But when you start using your body more efficiently and effectively, then what happens is the speed is mainly generated by your body. And then using your arm action, you will be able to control the direction. So one thing I find really interesting is that in these days, when I go to Korea, particularly, then I have the opportunity to work with professional players.
Yeah.
As you know, Korea is really strong at the LPGA. And so I had the opportunity to work with them. And as they start using the body more and more, naturally the distance increases and the direction control also improves.
Yeah.
So that's what I constantly see in these days. So the way I just explain is because now you have the upper body and lower body different the different roles. So the lower body is mainly responsible for speed generation, and then the upper body is mainly working on the direction control.
And I mean, it gives such a great backbone to a player's swing if they can move their body in the right rhythm even before they start, and actually start to produce the right motion of the swing just with the simplest stepping drills.
Yeah, the stepping drill, that's probably the easiest drills you can do, and also it can be the most efficient and effective drills. So, but the thing is, you have to do the step drills correctly. So you have to make sure that you separate the upper body rotation from the lower body translation.
Yeah.
So you have to separate the shift and rotate motion, right?
Yeah.
And then also even taking steps, you can still use your arms predominantly.
Yeah.
So it's like you are taking step, but essentially you are just doing arm-driven swing. In that case, you will not be able to really take advantage of the steps. And it's not just a matter of taking steps, but while taking steps, you have to push the ground horizontally also.
Yeah.
Okay, not just vertically, but horizontally. That horizontal force will allow you to shift. Okay? And then, oops, I was so excited and hit the cord.
I thought, hey.
Yeah, I'm resting my phone on a cup, and then I hit the cord. But not only you are interacting with the ground up and down direction, but you also have this horizontal interaction.
And you can,
so by using this force, you will be able to generate this shift motion and then acceleration, deceleration that comes with it. And then in developing the rhythm, it's really important to push the ground horizontally. And then you probably seen my two-step swing drills. If you take the step outward, then you have to push the ground in horizontal direction naturally. If you just maintain your normal stance and just try to lift the foot up, then you don't have that much horizontal interaction with the ground. But when you have to actually take a step outward and then outward, then you naturally push the ground horizontally as well. That actually is really important in terms of developing a good rhythm.
And it'd obviously be then good practice for this to start to be incorporated in players' warm-ups and practice in order to create the right rhythm, as you could say.
Yeah, the nice thing about the particularly two-step swing drills is that you can use them as your pre-shot routine, okay, part of your pre-shot routine. So as Ben Hogan did, you probably have seen what Ben Hogan did before he actually hit the ball. So you have this two steps, stepping away and then toward. With that, you will be able to feel the rhythm, the flow of the motion, and then you actually hit the ball. So this is actually really good for as part of your pre-shot routine. And then once you have this rhythm, built in, and then you have clear understanding the rhythm, and then you have enough practice, then essentially you are developing a good, a clock. You are developing a clock here. So that clock will basically govern, the rhythm.
Yeah.
And so even when you are under pressure, still that clock works. So you don't really go out of that rhythm. So it's the step-based swing drills. Those are quite useful.
So if I was sort of devising a way of practicing, I might start with the stepping drill with the rubber bands to get the feel of the motion back and through, and then start to incorporate some steps in it and a golf club.
I'm still, practice or experimenting a lot of things. So I don't know whether there is a clear, order.
Yeah.
Of this, but so sometimes depending on the golfer, I use a different approach. But so basically, for the two-step swing drills, I have three stages. The first stage is taking both steps. So when you will start the swing with the both feet together, and then as you toward the target, then you take the first step, the away step, and then bring the club back. And while the club is rotating, while the body is rotating, as I mentioned earlier, you have overlapping here between the rotation phase of backswing and the shift phase of downswing. So while it is still going through backswing rotation, you are introducing the second step toward, okay, and then let it go. So that's the first stage. If you visit my Facebook and Instagram, for those of you who are watching this live session, if you go to my Facebook and Instagram pages, then you will see many examples. But so that's stage one. And then what's important in the stage one is you have to develop overall really good movement pattern with the stage one. Unless you have a really good pattern, then you don't advance to the next stage, because stage 2 and stage 3 are pretty straightforward. You are just eliminating the steps. So we have to develop really good movement pattern, in stage 1. And then stage 2, you will start with a slightly narrower stance than normal. And then without taking the first step, away step, you will only take the second step toward the target. But you maintain the same rhythm, because you have developed a good rhythm in stage 1. So basically you are using the same movement pattern and rhythm, but the only thing you are eliminating is just the first step. You are not taking the step, but still the way you move your body should be the same. And then stage 3, eliminate both steps. So you are starting with your normal stance, but without taking step, but you still maintain the same rhythm. So in terms of stage 1 to stage 3, you are going 1, 2, 3 order. But there's another one that I use, which is a continuous swing back and forth. It's not two-step swing, but you continuously repeat the swing. it's not full, swing, but you're just swinging back and forth pretty much equally. And the goal here is you are repeating the motion. With that, you are developing the rhythm. For some people, I call this stage 0. That means you can try this before stage 1.
Yeah.
But for some people, I can call it the stage 3.5. Because stage 4 is the actual swing. So, with the rhythm incorporated. So if stage 4 is your goal, your final, after swing, then, I can do this. I can use this between stage 3 and stage 4. So I can call it the stage 3.5. So it really depends on the, how well the golfer does this, all the steps. So sometimes I ask them to swing back and forth before I start stage 1. Sometimes when the golfer shows a problem in moving from stage 3 to stage 4, then I introduce that continuous, swing as a stage 3.5. And or I also use just, stepping drills without club. So simply swinging your arms. In that case, you can you can just go across, the room, from one corner to, the opposite corner. Keep swinging your arms, and then step and swing, step and swing. The lab we have at the TW is really big. And then I asked them to go from the center of the lab to the wall, so they repeat step and swing, step and swing, step. They repeat the motion. So sometimes it helps. Or I can use, kettlebell instead of a club, or I can use a rope. You've seen, rope swing quite a bit, but the rope is a really good tool to develop good rhythm and body-driven swing.
But I think you're clearly making a differential between shift, rotate in both sides of the body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In these drills, it's we shift, rotate. And I think the fact that you're moving your feet more earlier in, say, drill 1, you really get a sensation of the pressure moving across and then across and turn across. And then you just refine it down once they've got the feel.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that usually when you work with the junior players, they respond to the step drills really well, most cases. So, in a matter of 45 minutes to an hour, you can easily induce really good body-driven swing. But from time to time, I encounter junior players who lost that simple natural movement pattern completely. It's because of their instruction and practice. So from early age, the junior players I deal with anywhere between 12 years old to 18, and then the college players. But even some cases at early age, I see junior players who lost the natural movement pattern completely. It's because of their practice and instruction. So although it's rare, but I do see this kind of case. But generally, the junior players respond a lot better. And then on the other hand, adults, particularly those who have had a long career in golf, it's a bit hard to change the movement pattern. But even with them, in an hour, I can induce a fairly good, body-driven swing pattern. So my experience basically, tells me that the two-step based drills, they are really easy, and at the same time they are quite, effective. So that's why I promote those drills.
Brilliant, and that's I think it's great. We did exactly what I want to talk to you about: lower body drills and how it works. And it's been great to have an hour of your time to go through it. And I'm sure all these people are going, wow, what's that? You know, it's great. I just think it's brilliant, and I could see, you know, we can sometimes get so caught up in technique, especially with younger players, that we forget the natural rhythm and the motion of
Mm.
what we're trying to produce. You know what I mean? And certainly, you know, with those sort of drills, there's a freedom to it, isn't there? There's a freedom to being able to move. You know,
This is a matter of coaching strategies, but you always go from a bigger picture than to a smaller details. Okay, so once you have a really good base, you develop a good backbone of swing, then you can certainly work on the details later. But if from early ages, if you work on small things too much, then later it's hard to change your movement pattern.
yeah.
So
And
uh,
some of the smaller details actually are the result of the bigger things that you get right earlier.
when you use a arm-driven swing, then what matters is where your arm is, your grip and your wrist action. All these become important problems. But if you look at this in terms of the body-driven swing, then you don't have to worry about those because you will naturally have whatever is necessary. So, what we have to remember is that golf swing is a dynamic movement. That means we have this acceleration, deceleration built in. And then, so how we accelerate the body or decelerate the body, because we have a change in direction. In golf swing, backswing to a downswing, we have a change in direction in terms of a shifting motion and also rotational motion. So when you have a change in direction, then you have to decelerate the body first and then accelerate in the opposite direction. So that transition, deceleration in the backswing motion followed by acceleration in the downswing direction, that connection is really important. And although we didn't talk much about the transition phase, but I'm more convinced that the key aspect of golf swing is what you do at the end of backswing, not what you do at the beginning of downswing or in the downswing. Because if you prepare your body really well during the backswing, and then you have good transition sequence, and your body is ready to go, and with that, automatically you will be able to develop really good flow, sequence, and everything. But if you start the backswing incorrectly, like an arm-driven backswing, upper body-driven backswing, without without the enough shift motion early on, then so you have a wrong start from the beginning. And then if you look at the transition, if your goal is just to bring the arms and club at the top here and then just reach the position, then shouldn't be a problem. But in reality, in golf swing, the backswing is used as a counter movement for the downswing. So by using the backswing, you will be able to develop really good initial conditions for the downswing. So, if you use your backswing well, in other words, if you prepare your body really well during the backswing, then automatically you will have a good transition sequence. And then that good transition will allow you to move the body properly so that you can develop a high caliber speed. So this can be done without even intentionally, try to do that. So now I'm working with, a colleague of mine in the department who is a motor controller specialist. So we pay a lot of attention to the so-called internal focusing and external focusing, or internal attention, external attention. But interesting, what I've discovered with from my experience with golfers is that when they ask me about where the club should be or what I should do with the wrist and everything, what I generally tell them is that forget about what your arms do, forget about what your wrist do. Simply pay attention to the rhythm and the overall rhythm. Then this will automatically come. You will have a good delayed release. You have a good lagging and a delayed release. But if you try to pay attention to this and intentionally try to do something, then always you go away from natural movement pattern. So these are the things I'm learning through my experience. But one thing really important is that the step drills are really easy, right? These are really simple, but we have a good scientific understanding of why the step drills are working. So it's not something you just try different things and then you will discover this is working really well. But rather, in my perspective, the reason why, so the rope swing, the step swing, these are not something I invented. It was already out there, right? But the reason why I chose these is because after going through all the testing and then looking at the relationships and try to explain this in a mechanical perspective and so on, the conclusion was, if we have stepping like action, then that will automatically give you really good core foot ground interaction. So that part can be easily taken care of. And also by using the motion, throwing the club toward the target first and then bring it back. So this will promote really active backswing. When you have an active backswing, basically supported by the lower body, then automatically you will develop good transition sequence. And that good transition sequence will also allow you to develop the angular velocity of the body and eventually the club speed, during the downswing. So we do have a fairly good understanding of why these are happening. So now, these drills are chosen because of all these evidences, not by trial and error type approach.
Yeah. Wow.
So in the perspective of golf instructors, you can certainly use these drills to produce the outcomes. But as a teacher, it's important to understand why these drills really work. Okay, so that's why teachers really have to study. Because if you really care your students, then you have to really understand the mechanism involved. Although the language you will use with your students may be different. Okay? You will certainly use a lot simpler terms, or you don't explain these with the lengthy, mechanical, biomechanical explanation and so on. But if you know why this works, okay, so you have the necessary background understanding, then you can certainly come up with the different versions of the stepping drills, and then you can apply those, with your students. So as a teacher, I'm a teacher. I teach my students at the university, but this teaching is a sacred job, profession. So in order to teach, you are the one who has to understand first.
Yes.
And then using the right language, using the right drills and everything, you are actually implementing those, and then that will really benefit your students. So I think by the last message that I want to give is, as a teacher, you have to understand why the drills work. Okay? That's why you have to study to a certain level biomechanics. So to me, biomechanics is not a choice, but it's a must in golf instruction.
Oh yeah,
and it is exciting time now.
Yeah, and they're not really they're complex drills when you look at what they're doing, but if you can start to get the people to do them well and look how they're moving, so that you get that right rhythm and the shift turn right, and they get it right, then it's just a great stepping stone to become better at this game.
And then another message that I probably want to give out is, if you try to solve a problem, then you have to always pay attention to the cause of the problem, not just addressing the symptoms. So if you have a headache, you can certainly take a painkiller if it's just a minor problem. But if you have a cancer-like problem in the head, then the painkillers do not work unless you really remove that cancer or tumor. So although we all know that in golf, consistency is the main thing. As long as you can hit the ball consistently, then you can maintain good score. But I use always the club speed a lot. But the club speed is a good indicator of whether you have this cancer-like problems in your movement pattern. So if in your movement pattern you have some major issues, then you'll not be able to generate the high club speed reliably. Because when you simply try to swing harder, it just produces scattered shots, because your body motion does not really guarantee any consistent shots. But if you have a good movement pattern, then you naturally improve the consistency as well. So the club speed is a good indicator. If suddenly your club speed drops, and then that means that you introduced something recently that does not work with the good movement pattern. So it actually causes trouble.
Brilliant.
I've seen some people who came in. They're always telling me that he or she lost the distance quite a bit recently. Then I say, go back and recall what you have done recently. Always when you have a certain decrease in the swing, the distance, that means you introduced something in your swing that does not work. It causes trouble. But really, the club speed is a good indicator of how good your movement pattern is. And if you have a good movement pattern, then you naturally have a high club speed.
Yeah.
So, but again, there are different ways to assess the issues that the golfer has. But so one last thing I want to tell is that whenever you have a problem, instead of introducing just a quick fix, you have to address the cause, and always try to use a holistic approach instead of try to just fix the problem locally.
Yeah.
Okay? And then, so for example, when you have a backswing, during the backswing, if your right instep leaves the ground, okay, many people show this problem during the backswing. The instep of the right foot leaves the ground. It's because you are moving the right hip backward too much. You intentionally try to rotate the pelvis. With that, your right hip is traveling backward too much. That's why the instep leaves the ground. Okay, but then if you during the backswing, if you lift your left heel a little bit, and then try to tap the ground with your left toe, that means you have to have a good weight shift on the right side, and you have to support the weight with your right leg. In this position, when you try to tap the ground with your left foot, then you will see that your right foot is in good contact with the ground, because the right foot has to support the body weight.
Yeah.
So instead of just putting a wedge or something, on the outer side, and try to physically, you don't allow the foot goes this way. That's not a good idea, because you have to really fix the cause of the problem.
Yes.
And then when your right hip is traveling backward too much and rotate a lot horizontally, if the pelvis rotates flat a lot, then the instep of your right foot leaves the ground. So when you look at this problem, the right hip is traveling backward too much, because you intentionally try to rotate your pelvis during the backswing without really have a good shift and the loading onto the right side. So, instead of introducing, small quick fixes, just to try to address a small aspect of it, it is always beneficial to have a holistic approach, and then try to develop good movement pattern. When you have a good movement pattern, all these issues automatically go away. So for that, if I give you just a good hint here, an active backswing solves a lot of problems. An active backswing means a relatively speedy backswing, But in order to have a speedy backswing, you have to use your body during the backswing. When you have really good active backswing, you will solve a lot of problems automatically. So, if you really address the cause of all the problems, then with one stone, you can catch many rabbits at the same time, or many birds at the same time. Yeah.
That's
so
brilliant.
That's why you need to develop this holistic understanding of what is happening during the swing and the why. Okay? Again, still you have to understand the background of all these things. So having a good understanding of biomechanics, I think it will allow you to really develop this holistic view.
It's been, Dr. Kwon, it's been brilliant. I really appreciate your time. It's been great. I'm sure everyone in here would say thank you to you. It's so refreshing to hear. I just think you're the absolute best in the world at this. And the drills are brilliant. And I hope I get on level 2 soon. I've done level 1, but I've not done level 2 yet.
Yeah, as you know,
in Chicago.
As you know, the classes are scheduled in July, at the Belfry. But given the situation, I don't know whether it will actually the situation will improve.
Well, look, next time you come out, I'll definitely be on that. I just think it's brilliant. I'd love to learn more about it. So, thank you for your time. It's been brilliant. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, and I really enjoyed talking to you. It should be a late evening in the UK. Yeah. Hopefully, stay healthy. And stay safe away from the virus.
And then we'll see.
And say hi to all my friends in the UK. Brilliant. And also in Europe.
Thank you very much. Thanks, mate. Thank you. Bye bye.